Welcome to another edition of Courtside with Rob and Washut. But before we head over to the arena, I want to give a big thank you to our sponsors of the show, Group Therapy Bike Tours and Slim Chickens. We'll start with Group Therapy. They are all in on the Nebraska basketball wave. Head over to grouptherapybiketours.com and book your ride today for all of your pregame, post-game, whenever game, birthday party, wedding, family reunion, corporate event. They have a 15-person trolley ride, a 6-person mini bike for whatever event you want to celebrate. And like I said, it is full force in Nebraska. If you've gone to a Nebraska game, I'm sure you've seen the trolleys riding around the Haymarket and downtown Lincoln. If you go over to grouptherapybiketours.com and use the promo code NebraskaBall, you will save 15% on your first ride. So make sure you head on over there and support our great sponsor. It's a ton of fun. I've been on it several times. Could not recommend it enough. Now over to our other sponsors, Slim Chickens. Bill Hooks and his wife Stacy are diehard Nebraska fans, and they couldn't wait to jump on the Nebraska basketball train. Locally owned Slim Chickens has 2 locations, 84th and Old Cheney and 16th and Pine Lake. Slim Chickens features a variety of options with fried and grilled chicken tenders, wings, salads, wraps, sandwiches, chicken and waffles, and southern sides. What makes Slim's different? Well, they have over 17 different dipping sauces for guests to choose their favorite. Slim Chickens is available for dine-in, drive-thru, or delivery via their online ordering. Check out Slim Chickens app and start earning rewards today. Slim Chickens is always a favorite for large gatherings and tailgate parties, especially Nebraska basketball tailgate parties, and let them do the cooking for you. Slim Chickens is moving forward, and they are expanding to the north side of Lincoln soon, so keep an eye out for that. Stop into your local Slim Chickens restaurant today for some southern hospitality and see their newly remodeled locations. Again, thanks to all our sponsors. Now let's head over to the arena and take you courtside with me, Rob and Washut. Welcome back to another edition of Courtside with Rob and Washut. As you can see by the Michigan logos in the background, I'm at the Chrysler Center here in Ann Arbor, Michigan. My first time in this building. I've been here a few times for football, which is right next door. The big house is right next door to the Chrysler Center. My first time for a hoops game, and the matchup certainly suggests why I made the trouble to come out here. Early flight this morning out of Lincoln. Luckily, despite all the weather going around, only had about a 45-minute delay with my arrival plane in Chicago to get to Detroit. Everything else went pretty smooth, and here we are. So a monumental game here for the Huskers, for arguably one of the biggest regular season games in the program's history. I know there's some games that people have pointed back to from decades and decades ago, but for the here, the now, what this season has been, what it could be, the venue, the level of competition they're facing, this one has to stack right up there with one of the biggest Nebraska's ever played in. And the stakes are significant in the sense that a win further validates everything that Nebraska has done to this point. Even though they're 20-0, even though they're a top 5 team in the country, you still get the sense, at least from the national level, that people are just waiting to see if Nebraska's for real, which sounds crazy. Like if there was any other school, maybe in a more established program with a different name on the front of their jersey that had done what Nebraska has done to this point, there would be no questions. They'd say this is a real deal national title contender. But because it's Nebraska, there is a thought that, they've just found a way to kind of luck their way into their best start in program history, one of the best starts a Big Ten team has had in 16 years. So this is an opportunity, the significance I was going back to prove a lot of those doubters wrong once again. And to me, it's not even just about like beating Michigan, because we'll get to kind of the adversity that Nebraska's facing in this one, not only with their opponent, but with the kind of issues they got going on with their roster. But, the fact that if they can go into this venue with, Michigan's this is like championship implications for both teams right now. And this is a Michigan team that, hasn't played their best ball over the last few games. They're winning, but, they haven't looked like the team that was beating Gonzaga by 40 a month ago. So they, I think, have a chip on their shoulder to prove that, they are the elite team in all of college basketball. And what better opportunity at home against a top 5 Nebraska team to really set the story about just how good they actually are. So plenty of motivation for Michigan. And so for Nebraska, obviously a win eliminates all the doubters. it puts them as a legitimate contender in the conversation for the best team in college basketball. Like you're moving into that top 3 zone where you're ahead of Michigan now because you went on their home floor and beat them. And then people are saying, well, is it Arizona? Is it Duke or is it Nebraska? Like that's kind of what's on the line here for the Huskers. But even if they losing this game with these stakes, with this, where it is, the fact that it's on the road, like I don't know if Nebraska would be punished too badly if it's a competitive loss. The one thing that you have to try to avoid here is the avalanche hitting you, which it's happened before in this gym many times, where things just get away from you and then there's no recovering because Michigan gets downhill, gets off and running, and there's no slowing them down. And that's what this current Wolverine group is made of. They've got star power at every single position, led by Yaxel Lindenberg, who is as versatile and complete of a player as there is in college basketball. But they do it at all 5 spots, and they go 10, 11 deep. So they are a matchup nightmare, which Fred Hoiberg kind of alluded to in his pregame, or I guess a preview press conference the other day, where he said there's just a lot about this group that scares you. So a win does massive amounts of gives Nebraska massive amounts of equity in terms of making them a real deal contender in the eyes of people that are still maybe doubting them. A close loss, I think, still accomplishes some of that, to where okay, Nebraska went in there and they went toe to toe with one of the best teams in the country on their home floor, and they lost, but they showed that they belonged. There's the one scenario you got to try to avoid is the lopsided loss where it looks like you don't belong on the same floor as Michigan, because then all those people that have been doubting you say, yeah, told you so. The other shoe was going to drop eventually. Here it is. Now Nebraska's back to reality. Let's go on with our day. The big problem for the Huskers tonight is, like I mentioned, their roster situation. Obviously, Braden Frager is going to miss his 2nd straight game with an ankle sprain that he suffered against Washington. He did not make the trip to Ann Arbor, and that is one of their best players off the bench. Arguably one of the best 6-man in the conference, one of the best freshmen in the conference, and just everything that he brings is going to be missed, even more so than it was against Minnesota. Like, this is a game where you need as much athleticism and physicality and aggression with the basketball that you can get. And Braden does all those things maybe as well as anybody on the roster. So that's going to be hard to replace. But then the other big domino here is Rink Mast popping up. I keep looking over at the tunnel waiting to see if Rink Mast is going to walk out. He did travel to Ann Arbor, but he is listed as questionable on the pregame availability report with what is believed to be an illness. The rumors going around are flu-like symptoms. Nothing's been confirmed yet. I've asked around, and no one will say anything. But the belief is that he's dealing with an illness. I don't think he was here at shoot-around earlier today. I think he was back at the hotel, probably resting up and drinking fluids and making sure that he was as good as he could possibly be to try to give it a shot. And I think that's the important part here. From everything that I've heard, Rink Mast is expected to play. Now the question becomes, how much does he play? And then more importantly, how well does he play? There is not a greater X factor on Nebraska's roster to give Nebraska a chance to win this game than Rink Mast. He's the one guy that can give Michigan fits, because Michigan is one of the best shot blocking teams in all of college basketball. Well, what do you need? You need a center to draw those bigs, especially Ade Mera, the 7'3" guy who's leading the Big Ten, ranked 6th nationally in blocks per game. Draw him away from the rim and make him have to defend you on the perimeter, and allow back cuts and other players to have clear paths to the rim that aren't there if there's not a big that is a proven shooter to justify him leaving the paint. Like, that's what Rink can do, especially if he's able to get back to his earlier shooting form. He's been on quite the slump over the last 4, probably to 6 games, going back to the Michigan State game. He's shooting 37% from the field, 20% from 3 over his last 6. So that's the other component here. Like, even before he got sick, he wasn't playing all that well. So this was going to be that game where, like, if he was going to snap out of his slump, this was going to be it, just because of how critical he could be for Nebraska. Now, that still could happen. Again, all reports are that Rink is going to play. Now, again, it's just a matter of what can you get out of him and what type of player is he going to be? How sick is he? I mean, there's the hope that you get a Jordan flu game type deal out of this, but there's also a situation where he's just too run down to really give you much of anything, and he ends up riding the bench most of the game. So the biggest question right now as we go through our pregame routine here, there's a handful of Huskers. I'll give you a tour here. Handful of Huskers out on the floor. Jamarcus there. Leo Curtis, Berke's down there. Sam, Kale, Price. They're all down there getting shots up. Students for Michigan are starting to roll in. They're expecting a sellout here, as you would expect, with the magnitude of this game. It was a cold, snowy day in the Ann Arbor, Detroit area. I don't think that's going to deter many fans from showing up. So it should be a raucous crowd. And Nebraska's going to have their hands full in a lot of ways. Again, Michigan's just, they shoot the three really well. They run the floor as well as any team in the country. They're big, they're physical, they're athletic, they're deep. They just do pretty much everything really, really well. So Nebraska was already going to have to play its near perfect game. They can't afford the lulls that got them down 16 at Indiana, or had them trailing at the half at Minnesota, or trailing by 16 against Oklahoma, because Michigan is too good. Michigan is the best team Nebraska has played to date, and if they do not play a complete 40 minutes of their best basketball, it is probably as insurmountable of a task to pull off this win as there is on the schedule. But, again, for that to happen, they need obviously a complete effort, but they need Rink. I can't stress that enough. Rink is such a critical piece to Nebraska's formula for success and their path to winning this game, that if they can get anywhere close to the full Rink, full Mast, then they at least have, I think, a puncher's chance. But right now it's just to be determined about how much gas he's going to have in the tank for start to finish in this one. So that's good for now. I got to do some TV hits for Channel 7. There's a lot of local media that showed up, probably as much as we've had on the road this season, which you would expect for this type of matchup and the opportunity this is for Nebraska. So we'll see. You know what? The one thing you can always go back to is there's a reason they have to play the game. If you just look at the circumstances and the stats and all that stuff, you say, all right, well, this is a loss for Nebraska. Well, guess what? They still have to play it, and Nebraska's still going to have a chance. There's no stopping Bryce Sanford from going for 40, or Sam Hoiberg going for 20, or Berke having the best offensive game of his career. Kale stepping up, and Jared Garcia, you saw him. Are we going to get Illinois Jared Garcia tonight? So there's a lot of things that can help make up for what Nebraska is losing in Braden Frager and what they could potentially be losing or having a diminished Rink Mast. But again, this is an all-hands-on-deck kind of game, and not having two of your best pieces at full strength or completely is going to make it really difficult. But we'll see what happens. Anyway, thanks for tuning in. Thank you to my sponsors, Group Therapy Bike Tours. Make sure you hit up grouptherapybiketours.com. Book your ride. That Sunday whiteout against Illinois is going to be off the chains, as if kids still say that. Sold out. Going to be a party. Book a group therapy trolley. And then get some Slim Chickens. Head over to Slim Chickens. Get some sandwiches for the crew. Load up, fuel up. Some of the best Southern food, hospitality you're going to find in the city of Lincoln. So, again, thanks for tuning in. We'll catch you after the game for Courtside with Rob and Washut.